Rabbi Yossi the Galilean is articulating here. If this is his behavior at this young of an age, can you imagine what he'll be in 5, 10, 20 years? Might as well take him out now.
Yeah. So that that on the surface solves one problem, but generates another. The
Yeah.
the problem that it solves is, and this is about the biblical verses, but it's what occupies, I think, a lot of the Tannaitic material here is we're trying to figure out what exactly did this young man do to warrant this punishment. Typically we have an explicit verse where we can point to, Lo tirtzach in the Ten Commandments, it says, "Thou shalt not kill," and so then we know that there is a punishment. Another verse says, "Mot yumat," that you receive a punishment for that. With this portion in Deuteronomy, all we have is that he's called a wayward and rebellious son. He hasn't listened to his parents, and there's this element of meat and drinking wine. And all of a sudden, we're stoning him and getting rid of this problem. And so, one of the things that occupies the rabbis is, I think, both from an ethical perspective, but also from an internal mechanism of generating a punishment. What are we killing him for? What's the prohibition he's violated? What has
Yeah.
he done? What's the act that he's done? And so the answer of the Mishnah and of this Braita is, well, he hasn't really done anything yet which warrants that, but he will. And we're worried about what he's going to do. So that solves one problem, one textual slash ethical problem of why are we killing him? What did he do? It generates another problem, which is what about free will? What about the ability to choose? With my students now, this is now an outdated reference. I talk about Minority Report, the
Oh
Steven
yeah.
Spielberg, Tom Cruise film, which talks about precog and pre-crime,
Right.
and it leaves us in this interesting kind of state of solving one problem but creating another problem. And I think that's where some of these other Mishnayot are operating. They're trying to figure out the precise kinds of behaviors and dispositions that we can really uh, hone in on as nearly proof positive that he is going down this path. And that's where all the requirements, they're not just to make sure we don't do this that often, if at all. They're also to really identify who is a potential threat, who deserves the label of Ben Soror or Moreh. How has the eating and drinking gotten to the point where we can then predict that it's going to continue and eat his parents out of house and home, and eventually he'll then, be on the highway and robbing and eventually killing people. Because interestingly enough, some Rishonim point this out. Even if you go with the view that he's going to eventually steal and murder, that isn't a crime that warrants stoning. So they try to figure out, why are we giving him stone? Why are we stoning him if we're not eventually seeing the specific crime? And it seems to me that what the rabbis are trying to do is they're trying to explain that the category or the label, the designation as a Ben Sora Mora, is actually what generates the punishment, not a specific act that he will do in the future. And to
Mm.
garner that label or to earn that negative label, you have to go through a whole catalog, a litany of different behaviors and actions in order to earn it.